Okay.
Hi guys.
Hey.
How you feeling? Have you recovered in the last week from all the scares?
I'm still shaking in my boots.
I'm like 75%, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means I'll be dead by the end of this month, probably.
Yeah. What you should do is just try to link a bunch of like skateboard tricks together so you can get your Tony Hawk bar full all the way to 100% again faster.
Yeah, I really should. I feel like I'm being somewhat negligent in our podcast recording and not doing that every single time. Because I can definitely feel the skateboard meter from you guys on each of these episodes.
Yeah. I've been doing all the special tricks
I'm pulling a stale fish.
to keep it up, and lots of grinding, lots of rail grinding, lots of dark slides, lots of 50-50s.
Just that daily grind, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
Wednesdays.
This is not a spooky intro though, guys. We need a spookier intro.
You're right.
Oh,
All right.
Can we spook it up?
Yeah. So let's say this: you're on your skateboard, you're at the local park, and you're skating at night. What's the scariest thing you could grind on?
Skeleton bone, right?
Yeah, it's gotta be long and skinny.
Long, skinny skeleton bone.
Yeah.
I think I would probably grind on what looked like another person. And then when I stopped grinding, I would look at it and it was me the whole time.
Oh my
Oh
god.
no, that's perfect.
Yeah. Hi everybody, welcome to Story Hole. We'll grind your bones and haunt your dreams. I'm Joey,
I'm Roger.
I'm Kevin.
and we're gonna take you back to that campfire.
Yeah.
We suspected that we saw some weird things in the woods, and we decided it's time to go back for the whole month, so you guys can expect 12 spooktacular tales from the dark. And so we're gonna go head back over there right now.
Do you guys have any real spooky stories, like real scary things that actually happened to you?
That have happened to us? No, I
Yeah.
have nothing. I wish.
I mean,
I have one.
yeah, tell us.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
You should save it for the finale. Save it for Halloween.
Maybe I should just... Okay, I'll do it on Halloween. I'll tell my own real spooky story.
I like
Yeah.
that. That's good.
Hey, on last week's Campfire Stories, we were measuring how scary our stories were based on how many socks we scared off our feet.
Yeah.
Should we stick to that metric, or should we try to find some kind of new measure?
Let's find a new one, because I ran out of socks, to be honest. And I didn't have time to go get more. So I've been wearing these plastic bags on my feet.
Last week's was so scary that it blew my socks out. They're just, my toes are just sticking out now.
Yeah. That once they went, all of your power went out in your house.
Uh-huh.
It was like an EMP of frights.
But your hair looks incredible.
Yeah. All right, so let's think.
Blowout's the thing, right? That's the thing ladies get?
Oh, yeah, a Brazilian blowout.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Gross.
Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
I was thinking it was like a cartoon explosion where all you see is the blinking eyes going blink, blink, and you just see all the hair kind of, it's all like black and ash covered and sticking out.
Charred Roger.
Charizard. Should we measure by how much our spines tingle?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How tingly is your spine? I have like a 0% tingle right now. How about you guys?
I've got a slight one. Like I had a little drop of Tapatio earlier.
I have what I would only describe as negative tingles right now.
Wow.
I think I need some tingles,
Stern man.
Joey, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready to shiver your bones. You guys
you.
ready?
Yeah, you got a
Let's
story
do it.
for us?
My story this week is about some weird creatures called the Dark Watchers, and I originally saw them in a game that I was playing, but then I couldn't find any information, so the gist of this is I try to track it down in real life. So I have a question for you guys first before we get started, because I want to relate this to something that I hold dear to my heart. Have you guys ever heard of something called a video game?
What's that?
A video game?
Yeah, so it's pretty incredible. It's like so there's a visual display and there's like a hero on the screen, and you can send commands from like this little small remote, and you can ask this fellow to jump and move and run, and you could choose.
Well, what makes him a hero?
It's the quality of life. It's the choices that he makes or she makes. So, for instance, I was playing as this little red plumber brother, but you could also play as a green plumber brother, or a little blue android man, or a beautiful orange alien fighting lady, and she's strong and so beautiful. But they all have goals. So, like, for instance, this little red plumber, his name is Mario, and, he's trying to save a princess from a big scary monster.
Man.
Yeah. Pretty cool, huh?
That's a hell of a story.
Yeah. So I was playing this game, and it's called Super Mario Galaxy 2. And I noticed some peculiar looking figures up in the mountains on a specific level. So I'm going to send it to you, and I'm going to describe this as I send it. These looming, still black-faced silhouettes are a bit out of place for a Mario game, if you ask me. So I wanted to see if we could find out who these local creepsters were in the Super Mario Galaxy game. So these are actually in the game.
Ooh. Those are some spooky figures, huh?
Yeah, but you have to just take a note that these are not characters that you're supposed to even see. They're just the tiniest little things that happen to be at the very, very top of very specific mountains if you look at the right place at the right time.
I kind of think they might be penguins just from far away.
Yeah. They're black, they're shadowy, they don't move, they're ominous and kind of humanoid. They're they stand still, and they're these dark watchers from the mountains.
Yeah. Just have
Right?
kind of hollow eyes.
Yeah, hollow eyes. In the game itself, they reside in Shiverburn Galaxy on a planet that is both frozen and contains molten lava.
Like a hot pocket.
Like the summer of 1997 for a pudgy young me. Some other Game Boys dug deep into the game's files and found that they belong to a file known as the Hell Valley Sky Tree.
Holy shit.
That's the name of the actual file in the game, yes. So the theory goes that this level was originally called Hell Valley, but aside from that, we don't get a whole lot of information from the game itself. However, there's another place that fits this description pretty dead on. So we live in Southern California, and Southern California has a lot of like desert towns and creepy lore that comes along with it. So for instance, our town that Roger and I are from is called Simi Valley, and it's home to like a nuclear meltdown, some strange obelisks, alien and UFO sightings, cults.
Yeah.
We're like Gravity Falls pretty much. But it's not just Simi. One particular desert town not too far away is also home to some creepy legends such as the Skinwalkers. And it has a climate that dips down as low as 45 degrees freezing and goes up to 120. Do you know what this town is called? Hell. It's called,
Is it really?
It's called Hell, California.
Is that real?
Yeah. Yeah, it is
How come
real.
we've never been there.
Yeah, it's not that far away, actually. we can go there next week and have our campfire there if you want.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. Hell, California could be said to freeze and melt things, just like Shiverburn Galaxy. And while there are no skinwalkers in Super Mario, there are stories about looming dark figures and eerily similar creatures called the Dark Watchers in the Santa Lucia mountain range. So for context, that's a drive you can make in a day, no problem. It's like about 300 miles away is kind of the stretch if you just drive up the 5 freeway. In Southern California, we're going to go see if we can find out anything about the actual Dark Watchers. So you guys want to take a day trip up the 5 freeway with me and see what kind of spooky men we can find?
I definitely do, but I do kind of want to summarize what you're saying here. What's the significance of this movie game thing that you're telling us about?
Yeah, where does this Mario fit in?
So
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I was playing Mario and I found these weird, creepy figures. They're these dark, looming, ghost-like figures that only kind of appear if you're looking for them. And they just sit on top of these mountains. They're tiny, at least from far away. And they just stare at you in a place that is more or less been called hell. But also in California, there's places in Southern California, like Hell, California, that fit that same description of that galaxy. And not too far away from Hell, California itself is the San Lucia mountain range, which actually has the same kind of creatures. They just, at the very top of the mountains, are dark. They stare at you. They're creepy.
Huh.
And we're going to talk about those right now.
Okay, take us there.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a little day trip. We're going to drive, and we'll see what we can find. So San Lucia mountain range, it overlooks the ocean. It's pretty nice. Cool breeze, light layer of fog. Did you guys bring the picnic basket, maybe?
Kevin, did you bring the picnic basket?
Maybe like a bottle of wine?
I brought my picnic bucket. Is that going to work?
What did you put in there?
Slop.
Is there enough for all three of us?
I have a pocket
definitely.
full of oatmeal.
Oh, okay. I got some Capri Suns. Oh, okay, maybe we can just kind of sit down right here and enjoy the mountain range and wait and see if we find anything. Oh, and while we're waiting, I did bring a book to read, but maybe I can just read it out loud so you guys can hear it too. It's called Flight by John Steinbeck. It's pretty good so far.
That totally makes up for the fact that you dropped the ball and only brought Capri Suns.
Well, I mean, they
you.
were the Pacific Cooler.
Can I eat this book, Joey?
After I'm done with it, let me just finish this excerpt and you can go ahead and go for it, okay? So, here's where I left off. Pepe looked suspiciously back every minute or so, and his eyes sought the tops of the ridges ahead. Once, on a white barren spur, he saw a black figure for a moment, but he looked quickly away, for it was one of the Dark Watchers. No one knew who the Watchers were, nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never show interest in them. They did not bother one who stayed on the trail and minded his own business. Okay.
Man, that's eerie, huh?
Yeah, it felt a little eerie.
It's reasonable.
Instead, how about we read a song that's a little bit calming, like a poem?
Okay.
All right. Well, I got a poem here from Robinson Jeffers, and it says, he thought it might be one of the Watchers, who are often seen in this length of coast range, forms that look human to human eyes, but are certainly not human. They come from behind the ridges to watch. But when he approached it, he recognized the shabby clothes and pale hair, and even the averted forehead and concave line from the eye to the jaw. So he was not surprised when the figure turning toward him in the quiet twilight showed his own face. Then it melted and merged into the shadows beyond it.
Yuck.
Yeah.
That's exactly like what you saw in that Mario game, huh?
So here's the cool thing about this. Both of these writers actually lived in the area, and both of those excerpts came from writings from 1937.
Holy shit.
And actually, those aren't the only accounts of the Dark Watchers taken down. Locals from the area all know of these legends, dating back for years, and while some attribute Chumash Native American tribes with these figures, that doesn't really have legs to stand on. However, early Spanish settlers did have accounts of these folks in droves. They called these figures Los Vigilantes Oscuros, and the sighting would continue well into this day. John Steinbeck's son, Thomas, would not only comment on his father's sightings, but pull a full-scale investigative writing of his own about the Dark Watchers and publish that as well. So, what exactly is a Dark Watcher? Local accounts describe them as shadowy figures that hide in the periphery of your sight. If you catch one, they do not move. They are often out of reach and are black and silhouetted. They may have sunken or white eyes, and they are humanoid in shape and terrifying. Half of the accounts suggest that if you pursue one, they simply vanish before your eyes. The other half claim that their presence and glare will put people into a panic. So, if you try to approach one, you will uncontrollably run away, kind of like an opposite siren.
Oh, man.
One account in the 1960s places a local high school principal on the mountains hiking until he stops, and he sees a dark figure on the rocks that seem impossible to climb above him. So he calls out. What do you think happens?
He runs away
I'd say the guy probably answers.
uncontrollably.
I bet they become best friends.
Can you elaborate about that story?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that the principal probably calls out, and then the little Dark Watcher up there says like, hey, principal, and then they just kind of hit it off, and maybe they fall in love.
So, all right, you guys better hang on to your seats for this one. He calls out to him, and the Dark Watcher vanishes. That's the end of the story. It's kind of boring, but apparently he goes back. He goes back a year later, and the same thing happens again. So, but it's really funny. During the research, everybody brings up this principle, and it's the most insignificant story ever. So there may be logic to this, though. Hallucinations or illusions have been noted for us frail human idiots. Exhaustion and isolation can both contribute to the alleged paranormal experiences. Infrasound can come from wind and create anxiety for people. If winds create low frequencies like 10 to 12 hertz, our ears and bodies may perceive them, but we can normally hear lows around 20 hertz, which is the low to normal range. So that's sounds like this.
Oh, that made me feel something for sure. So you're saying like the sound of the wind can make a noise that we can't audibly hear, but can our bodies like register somehow?
Yeah. So the idea is we can kind of hear around 20 hertz, but as you start to go lower than that, it starts to dissipate as a potential for us to actually hear the sound. Dr. Tony Lawrence wrote a paper called Ghosts in the Machine that posited that 19 hertz was responsible for ghost sightings. Vic Tandy, another researcher, also investigated this when he noticed his fencing foil sword, which was vibrating. Upon further investigation, the fan in his allegedly haunted lab emitted a frequency of 18.98 hertz, which is super close to the resonant frequency that our eyes work at, which is 18 hertz according to NASA. So the idea of us feeling or seeing or sensing something around the same frequency that the winds could produce is what allegedly may be causing what we perceive to be these Dark Watchers.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Additionally, though, there's also an optical illusion called the Broken Spectre, aka Mountain Spectre, that occurs when specific atmospheric conditions align. So it could be the sun at a specific angle, proper fog or condensation, and shadows being cast on the backdrop of clouds. So if you've ever been to Big Sur, you may have noted the eerie fog of the historic trail or the gloomy nature of the beautiful Pfeiffer Beach. And these ocean conditions may be playing a classic sea prank on us. You know, it could very well be what actually makes people perceive these Dark Watchers.
The Santa Lucia Mountains, is that where Big Sur is?
Well, it stretches up through Big Sur.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a mountain range, you know, so it goes up the California coast, which is long and skinny. So, but yeah, so maybe these are monsters, but maybe they're just JPEGs in the mountains. No way of knowing.
Yeah.
My advice is that you, Kevin, put away your Pokemon Go because you're embarrassing us in front of the higher beings.
Sorry, what?
When you go to the mountains, I want you to put away your Pokemon Go because you're embarrassing me in front of my new
One second,
alien.
I'm trying to catch this Pikachu.
I'm just kidding. You gotta catch them all.
I have 1,000 of them, but
Well,
I gotta get this
can't
one
you like
too.
turn them into candy and feed them to each other? You sicko.
Yeah,
You're the real monster
That's
of the
my
mountains.
favorite part of it. Yeah, I'm the pocket monster here.
There is one more quick little note, and then we'll call it. We'll call that myth busted, or maybe we should call it something else so we don't get sued. That myth is going to be blasted. But there's one more thing. Sometimes they're depicted as having a brimmed hat or a trench coat. But if you think about it, a dark figure with a brimmed hat and a trench coat, that's totally just like that 1990s neighborhood watch guy.
Hey, it is. Yeah, the guy from the sign.
Yeah.
Man, that guy's really confusing to me. Whenever I see a neighborhood watch sign, I can't make out what he's supposed to be. Right? So he's got like it's just a silhouette, and he's got a hat pulled down really low, and you can see his eyes. But is that just a big gaping mouth? Is he like a Muppet?
I think it's supposed to be like...
It really doesn't make
What?
sense, right?
Yeah.
I gotta look at it again.
I think I get it because it's his collar that's popping up, right? Like it's
Yeah,
like he's a detective or like a I don't know. But
It's very confusing.
yeah, that's probably the biggest mystery of this whole.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's a pop collar. This guy's the original pop collar guy.
Yeah.
And he's got
Yeah.
he's got a mask for some reason. Like what's that guy? Hi-Ho Silver.
The Lone Ranger.
Lone Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a Lone Ranger, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. It's very confusing because his head is shaped too weird, right?
I mean, it might just be a weird stylistic thing where they wanted to cut that little dent out where his eyeballs would be or something.
I guess so.
Yeah.
This is probably terrible podcasting because we're just talking about a picture that people can't see.
Oh, I imagine most people know what the neighborhood watch guy looks like, right?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it for that. Hey, Mamma Mia. That's an abridged joke of a paragraph I didn't actually get to. So. Whatever.
Are there any other ones that you have down there that we didn't get to? You get to toss in
I
there?
did have
Fraggle Rock.
I have some Fraggle Rock quotes. I've got the term for skinwalker, which is Yeenald Lushi. That's I'm definitely gonna take that out though during the edit. So whatever.
Hey, Kev, how's your spine feeling?
I mean, I'm definitely I'm still in the negative a little bit on the tingles, but I got like 6 tingles from that, I think.
Yeah.
So it's
There's
kind of
parts
it's more of
me
an
there's
ASMR
parts of me
video.
that are tingling. Yeah. That's the thing. It's kind of more of an ASMR. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe one of you guys can drive it home for us.
Yeah, Kev, you gotta speak.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
for
tingle
us.
myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to tingle myself.
Sorry, my
here if I
tingle
can.
factors weren't inadequate today. I just get so wrapped
No,
up
they
in
were
that
great.
world. I want to go down the pipes. I want to get the star, man. I got to save the princess.
Did you save the princess?
Not yet. I had to take a break. It's on pause
Okay.
right now.
I'm rooting for you.
Thanks, man. Maybe one of you guys can drive it home for us.
Yeah, Kev, you got a spooky story for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to tingle myself. So mine this week, I wanted to try to. I was trying to think again, like what is campfire stories? What do I think of when I think of this kind of atmosphere that we're in right now? And there's one thing that was particularly nostalgic to me growing up that I loved watching. I felt like it was kind of like the Twilight Zone for kids. Any idea what I'm talking about? Is a TV show.
Tales from the Crypt?
No, but that's a very good one.
Is Is it Are You Afraid of the Dark?
It is Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah. It's a Nickelodeon classic.
But also, is it the movie Pretty Woman? Because my parents used to put that on when I was a kid all the time.
No,
That's true.
It's not Pretty Woman. I was afraid. I thought about doing Pretty Woman, but I was afraid of how much tingles that would come from that. That was kind of irresponsible.
All right, sorry. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Let's get into
Are You Afraid of the Dark? Made for children. It's a children's show. But I watched a couple episodes, and they've got some pretty decent stories to them. So I thought I would kind of just go through a shot-by-shot telling of one of the episodes that I thought was particularly good.
Okay.
You all set?
Yeah.
This episode starts out, just like all the other ones, with a group of middle schoolers sitting around a campfire goofing off. And in this particular goof session, the kids are looking at pictures of each other when they were much younger. And they're all poking fun at each other and they're laughing as they look at the old photos, until finally one of them reveals that the reason they asked everybody to bring those photos is because their story tonight has to do with photos and taking pictures, and what can be revealed from the pictures themselves, of which she titles The Tale of the Curious Camera. Sounds very scary, right?
It's very scary. Yeah, I'm already tingling.
The story starts out at a school on picture day. Students are lined up one by one, waiting for their chance to get their pictures taken. Next in line is the school's basketball team. The camera focuses on our main character for the episode by the name of Matt Dorney. I'm just going to call him Matt. Everyone in line is in their blue basketball jersey except for Matt, who is frantically tucking in his oversized polo shirt into his jeans because he's about to be called up. It's very awkward because everybody in the shot is in their basketball jersey with basketball shirts, and for whatever reason, he's not.
Only Matt Dorky, huh?
A snarky-looking kid walks up to him and asks if Matt has ever read the book he's holding. Matt responds that he hasn't, and the kid asks him if he's sure and puts the book closer to his face. There's a ketchup packet lying on top of the open book, and the jerk kid slams shut the book to pop the packet in Matt's face.
Oh no, classic prank.
The bullies laugh, and Matt starts to wipe off the condiment on his face when the bully stops him. He says it looks good on him and he should keep it. Matt complies because the bully starts to get kind of aggressive, and he walks up to get his picture taken. The photographer is this downtrodden, middle-aged man who hands him a handkerchief and then with a monotone voice says, "Smile. Good." And the next shot we see is a steamy boys' locker room where Matt is getting bullied again by the same kids.
You know, he could soap himself up like in Ender's Game and really show the bully a lesson.
Yeah, you could murder the bully. Uh-huh.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, Matt.
So the way they're bullying him this time is they're using his books as like makeshift hockey pucks. Until the coach comes in, the coach starts passing out all the photos they had just taken to each of the team members. But something is wrong. Matt isn't in his. The chair is there, the backdrop, the school logo, but no Matt. Matt's worried about what his parents will think if he comes home with the photos that doesn't have him in it and decides to go confront the photographer at his place of business. The photographer's shop is messy and dark. Matt calls out, "Hello?" It's Baba Yaga. Matt, my dork is the same as Baba Yaga. There's no answer, so he starts snooping around. He eventually makes his way to the back of the shop where he finds the photographer eating a sandwich. He looks like a slob. Like, picture a slob, that's this guy. His shirt is unbuttoned with a dirty wife beater underneath. He's slumped over in his posture. His hair is all over the place. He's got sunken in eyes and they're all wrinkly. This guy's clearly given up on life. Matt tells him why he's there and shows him the photo. And the guy says, "Whoa, what is this?" Matt says, "It's the picture, but there must be some mistake." A look of realization falls over the man's face. And he replies that it looks like Matt's portrait to him. The man continues to say, "Tell me if I'm wrong. No one notices you? You let people walk all over you? You don't take action? In other words, you're invisible." And he pushes the photo back into Matt's chest.
Man, what a jerk.
Yeah, that's an adult man who's allowed to be in a school to take pictures of kids. Matt pleads with the man for a new photo and he refuses. Just as Matt is walking away defeated, the man stops him. He says, "Let me make it up to you. I have something really special. It's one of those first models of instant film cameras." And he pulls out an antique-looking camera and hands it to Matt, who says, "I can have it?" The man replies, "It's yours if you want it." Matt excitedly accepts it and heads home. Matt's looking the camera over when it goes off on its own into his chest. The photo that comes out shows a blotch on his shirt. Matt assumes that it was old film and it did not develop well, but then he looks down and he sees that a pen had burst in his shirt, leaving a stain.
So did the pen break after he took the picture?
We don't know.
Okay.
What we see is Matt is holding the camera. It goes off. You see the picture. There's a ink stain on Matt's shirt. He looks down and now there's an ink stain on his shirt too.
Okay.
So it didn't appear as though he had an ink stain before, but
we can't be positive. Okay.
Yeah, you can't really see that well. So curiosity gets the best of Matt, and he starts taking photos of random stuff, like a vase. His younger sister walks into the room and says, "Take my picture," while striking a model-like pose. Matt makes some snarky remark about her image breaking the camera and pulls the picture out of the vase. He's confused, and we don't see what's on the picture. But then we hear a crashing noise and a yell from his sister. The vase is now on the floor, shattered. His sister insists that she didn't do it and that a wind must have blown it over or something. Matt looks back at the photo, and now we can see that it is a picture of the vase, but the vase is broken.
Oh no, it's a future camera.
It's a future camera. Matt tests the camera out on more and more things, and every time it shows something changed. Moments later, the image comes true. But Matt isn't scared, he's actually excited about the camera. Until it goes off on its own on his fish tank and the motor blows up. The next thing we see is Matt throwing out the camera.
I mean, unless it could be worse, right? If the fish blew up, that would be very decisive. And I think having the motor blow up is totally fine.
The next day, Matt is back in school, and he opens his locker to find the camera there waiting for him. Matt is confused, but is not given enough time to process what he's seeing because his locker is immediately slammed closed by that bully from the other day. While the bully is screwing with Matt's things, Matt gets out the camera and after a moment of introspection, turns to the bully and calls him a butthead. Right as Matt is about to get beat up, the camera goes off and startles the bully. Before the bully can recover, the coach shows up and demands everyone get on the court. Next, we see a rousing game of middle school basketball, shirts versus skins.
Oh no. Which team is Matt on?
Matt, for whatever reason, is kind of like skulking around the side. He's not really, I know he definitely wasn't in skins, so he might have been in shirts, but he's wearing a polo again, so I don't know what's going on.
He's fancy shirts.
Matt keeps watching to see what will happen, but nothing does. After the game, all the players are cleaning up and getting dressed in the locker room, but the bully is there waiting for Matt. Matt is contemplating his options when one of the lockers suddenly shakes and falls over on the bully. Cut to commercial.
Can you walk us through these commercials?
One of them, surprisingly enough, is a Capri Sun commercial where all the children are turning into liquid people.
Yeah,
and
T1000s.
Yeah.
That's great. You also probably have your Skip It, right? You got your Skip.
Skip It.
Yeah.
Maybe Kid Sister,
Yeah.
Maybe like a Polly Pocket.
Baby bottle pop, baby bottle pop.
Yeah, perfect.
Hey, could you guys, if you had to, do you think that there's a commercial that exists from the 90s that you could recite word for word, just like having heard it a million times when you were a kid?
There was that Sears one about the air conditioning unit. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'll call tomorrow. Or she,
You'll
what does
call
he
today.
say? I'll call now.
Remember Aaron Burr, the milk commercial?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't remember that one.
It's a guy eating a peanut butter sandwich, right?
Right.
And then he's listening to the radio, and there's like a trivia show, and it says whoever can call in right now and say the name of the man who shot and killed Hamilton, then they'll win like $1 million. And he calls in and he's going to say the answer, but he can't because his mouth is full of peanut butter.
Oh, I do remember that.
He's going, and he's like screaming, and you hear him like it's like audible, like it's frantic.
It's like,
I feel like that's
frantic desperation.
Yeah, and then just defeat Aaron Burr.
Perfect. I feel like that was a good enough recount of some of the old commercials we might have seen.
Let's get back.
We're
back from commercial break now. That actually felt legit to me.
We're back. Matt is looking through his yearbook with glee, deciding who deserves to have their picture taken. His sister walks into the room and asks what he's doing. Matt asks if she can keep a secret and explains everything to her. She doesn't believe him, but the camera accidentally goes off on her, and Matt has to tackle her out of the way right in time to dodge a falling chandelier. Now that she believes him, they're looking over all the photos, and she notices that each one of them has this little symbol on it. It kind of looks like a goblin or a gremlin. It's like an outline of a goblin or a gremlin. Matt takes this as they're not alone. There must be something else here, and decides to go back and see the photographer and give him back the camera. When he arrives at the shop, there's upbeat music playing. Everything looks really edgy and cool and clean. And he wanders again into the back to see the same man, but this time, he's in super nice clothes. He has a cell phone and an attractive female partner. He's on the phone with someone discussing his flight back to New York for his gallery opening. Matt confronts him and asks him to take the camera back, and the man refuses. He explains that he's had the camera for 20 years, and ever since he's had it, it's been terrible luck. He gave it to Matt a week ago, and look how much better his life has become. He then says that he couldn't take it back even if he wanted to. You can't give the camera away. It has to be taken by somebody who wants it. The man shoos Matt off, and the scene changes.
Why didn't you just threaten to take a picture of the guy?
Oh, that's smart.
Matt's a good boy.
Still, man. He just gave you a cursed camera.
Except when he's dealing with bullies.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's where I draw the line. I feel like I'm a pretty good boy. But absolutely I'm going to threaten this man who's ruining my life with a gremlin.
The idea, though, I mean, that would be very clever. The idea is that the man couldn't actually take it back because he doesn't actually want it. The only reason why that he was able to pass it off to Matt is because Matt was stoked on it in the beginning.
Well, sorry, Matt.
Matt's fallen on hard times.
Yeah.
So he decides to go home, and as he's walking back up to the door, it opens from the other side. The camera goes off on its own, and Matt's parents walk out the door. They're going to see a movie. It's a date night. Matt tries to stop them, but they aren't having it. When Matt looks at the photo that develops, it shows a car crash.
Oh,
No, that sucks.
Yeah. Quickly, Matt finds his sister and tells her what happened. She says to hell with this and starts beating it with a bat. She completely wrecks the camera, and they decide to go back inside. But when they get in there, they see that the camera is actually sitting on the couch. They both begin to panic. But then Matt gets an idea. We see Matt scurrying around the house, grabbing pillows and blankets and all these different things. He's putting something together, but we don't know what. You guys have any idea what his plan might be?
He's building a bigger camera
He's gonna
to take
bully
it
the
out.
camera.
Yeah. I'm building a robot. Is that what you said, Raj?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's building cameras and robots instead of pillows and blankets.
What Matt ends up doing is he sets up an elaborate system with the camera facing a mirror and rigs it to go off. Suspense builds as we see flashes back and forth between Matt's parents and the boy's clever ploy. Finally, the camera blows up, and we breathe a sigh of relief. But the relief is short-lived, as the family camcorder turns on.
Oh, no.
The demon had jumped to a new camera.
Oh, no.
Matt tries to turn it off with a remote, but it just turns back on. He keeps trying. It keeps turning back on. He keeps trying. It keeps turning back on. But finally, he turns it off one more time, and when it turns back on, it blows up. I guess he short the fuse somehow. Or maybe the demon is somewhat combustible. I don't really. Matt and his sister walk out of the house laughing and talking about how they're going to have to come up with some way to explain all this to their parents. All is calm and well until the family computer boots itself up. A logo appears on the screen.
Windows 95.
It's the same picture of the gremlin from the photos. End of episode.
So did he rig up mirrors? Is that what he was doing? He was trying to use mirrors to get the camera to take pictures of itself?
Yeah, it took a picture of itself and it blew it up, right?
Okay, so
Yep.
cool.
So how are you going to do? I mean, there's nothing you can do with the computer, though.
Go on Napster and download a virus.
Yeah. It's just probably like, 1998. So just download a bunch of like 311 songs off Napster and you'll probably kill your computer.
And then right before it blows up, it goes, "Congratulations."
The idea is that these things take photos of you and then they make bad stuff happen to you. But what is a computer going to do?
Yeah, what's a computer going to do?
It like gets on your Facebook profile and writes a status
yeah.
update.
This
That's
predates
perfect.
Facebook, so it's going to have to be like a AIM instant messenger situation.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, if the goblin can't hurt me because it can't take pictures of me, having a computer that can't break would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's true. I'll take a goblin computer.
I actually think about it. Maybe the goblin was just bummed out that his house was so small, and now he has room to stretch out. So he probably look up Encarta on via disc.
You could probably play Lemmings.
He can probably find the fight of his life against the Yeti and Ski Free and see who's the ultimate monster.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh man, maybe that's where the Yeti and Ski Free comes from. Maybe that the Yeti is the gremlin in the computer.
Kevin, can you look at those pictures again and tell me if the icon of the gremlin looks like the Yeti from Ski Free?
I need to look up the Yeti from Ski Free too. Yeti.
Don't look directly at his eyes. Don't look at it. Don't look directly at his eyes.
This one shows. Oh my God. Hold on. Let me lay them over. Oh no.
Kevin, get out of there.
Kevin, you cracked the case.
I'd love to see a sequel to where we find out what happened to the sleazeball guy that owned the camera initially.
Yeah, I want to know more about him. Do you think he married the girl?
I think that he has his own story. Yeah, he marries the girl. She becomes like a model, and he's shooting all these pictures. That Duran Duran song's playing in the background. What's it called? Girls on Film.
It's funny that you would ask that because I actually did do the research on that particular subject. And what he ends up kind of quitting his job as a photographer. Turns out it wasn't really right for him. He becomes an office worker, just like your standard office worker. Until one day, this guy offers him 2 different colored pills, and his life changes.
Oh, wow. Girls on Film. Boom, 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 boom. Girls on Film. That's perfect. Fade to the credits.
That's an incredibly terrifying story.
Yeah.
How are we doing on shivers?
I'm tingling all over the place. I got a lot of them.
Yeah. Mine went kind of up and back down and then back up just because it was a wild ride, and I just kept thinking about nostalgia, and some of it was good, some of it was bad, and then I kind of identify with that kid. And then so I don't know. I don't know where I'm a mess. I gotta go.
What do you think would show up on the film if I took a picture of you?
Of me?
Yeah.
A nude me?
Just-
It's 6:51 p.m., baby. You know how I live my life.
It's naked hour, man.
I thought you were going to say spaghetti stains or something like that.
Well, that too. I have to eat my dinner. It's 6:51 p.m.
Hey, does it count as a stain if it's on your bare skin?
Yes.
Then yeah, I've got those.
Yeah. All right. Well, Raj, you want to take us home?
Are you guys' spines ready for some tingles? Because I got a hell of a story. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
I got a question for you guys. Do you like wishes?
Yeah.
Do you want a couple?
Couple witches?
I want the third one.
Okay. Well, hold on to that third one
I'll
because
take the first 2.
you only each get one.
Okay.
See, I've got some magic fingers over here, and I only have one for each of you. But if you want, you can ask my magic finger for a wish. What do you guys want?
I'd like to go against my normal grain, which is to let the genie go because there's no genie in the situation. And I want to let you go.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, you're free.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But with my newfound freedom, I'm coming to your house. And I'm gonna spit in your eye.
Not again.
Yeah, that's not great, huh?
What if I close it? I'm going to wish to close it.
I'm gonna get the other one. So those wishes didn't turn out so good, huh? You probably wish you hadn't made those wishes after all, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a spooky story for you guys that I think you could probably learn a lot from. It's the story of the monkey's paw.
I wish you had started off with a story before making us make bad wishes.
Yeah, that's a bad friend.
Yeah, well, I mean, the lesson's going to be more powerful after living through it.
All right.
Okay, so I want to introduce you guys to the White family. It's Mr. White, his wife, Mrs. White, and their teenage son named Herbert. They live in England, out in the countryside in like the early 1900s, and they're a happy family. Mr. and Mrs. White are in their 50s, and they're comfortable. Mr. White spends a lot of time reading by the fireplace. Miss White knits in the evenings. They're just like a sweet old couple. Their son, Herbert, is an adult, but he still spends a lot of time at the house with his parents. And he's bright and he's kind, and he works in town at the big factory. And it doesn't say in the story what type of factory it is, but I feel like in order to really build the character, we should probably establish that. Do you guys want to choose what kind of factory he works in?
Fudge.
Perfect. Okay, good. So it's the nice old white couple and their son, Herbert, the fudge maker. And when we start our story, it's just a terrible night outside. It's pouring rain, and Mr. White and Herbert are playing chess with each other to pass the time while they wait for a visitor. Because there's an old friend of Mr. White's that he hasn't seen in years, and he's back in town. It's a sergeant major in the British Army named Morris. And Sergeant Major Morris and Mr. White grew up together. But for the last 21 years, the Sergeant Major has been fighting wars and exploring exotic locations in India. But now the Sergeant Major is back in England. He's going to stop by the White's house to catch up and enjoy an evening together on this stormy night. When the Sergeant Major arrives, Mr. White is thrilled to see him. He invites him in and he introduces him to his family. And he puts a tea kettle on the fire and he pulls out some old whiskey. And the White family and the Sergeant Major gather around the fireplace for just like a pleasant, friendly evening get-together. Sergeant Major Morris, though, he's a pretty serious man. He's like big and muscly. In his eyes, you can tell that he's seen some things, and his adventures have made him pretty weary in his old age. But after a couple drinks, the sergeant major lightens up a little bit, and he starts to tell the White family about all the weird and wild things that he's seen in India. And the family's loving it. Their minds are just full of like images of exotic locations and exciting adventures. But Mr. White interrupts him, and he says what he really wants to hear about is something that the sergeant major just mentioned in a passing moment. Some kind of magical monkey's paw. The sergeant major quickly tries to dismiss it and change the topic, saying that the old monkey's paw is not really worth talking about. But Mr. White presses him on it, and a little reluctantly, the sergeant major reaches into his pocket and pulls something out. It's a little mummified monkey hand. And it's pretty shriveled up and gross looking, but still clearly a paw cut off at the wrist. And on the hand, it has 3 fingers, and all 3 fingers are standing up stiff and straight. And the sergeant major looks at the thing with just kind of like a certain degree of sadness, and then he passes it around to the family to examine. Miss White is disgusted by the thing and she won't pick it up, but Mr. White and his son Herbert are pretty into it. They're intrigued by it. And Mr. White asks what's so special about it. The sergeant major responds saying that the monkey's paw had a spell placed on it by an old Indian holy man, a mystic who wanted to create an object to prove to the world that fate governs all human lives, and that any attempt to interfere with fate will only end in suffering. Herbert asks the sergeant major what he means by that, and the sergeant major explains that the old holy man gave this monkey paw the power to grant 3 separate men 3 wishes apiece. And with each wish, 1 monkey finger would curl down to the palm to keep track of how many wishes that man has used. And at first, the White family kind of reacts as if the sergeant major is telling them some kind of joke or if he's pranking them maybe, but there's like a gravity and a severity in the sergeant major's tone that quickly makes them realize that this is no trick. So Mrs. White asks him if he's used it, and the sergeant major says yeah, he's already had his 3 wishes. And the man that owned it before him used his 3 wishes too. He doesn't know what that man's first 2 wishes were, but he knows that his 3rd wish was just for the sweet release of death.
Wow.
That's the route I thought you were going to go with the joke when Joey asked for you to be set free.
Oh, that's way better. I'm going to go back and edit that in.
When you go back and edit that, can you edit in a funny thing too? One more thing for me.
Yeah, like a fart noise or something?
Yeah, that too. When he pulls out the monkey paw, rather than it being in his pocket, he has it tucked into his long sleeve. And he's pretending that's his hand, and then make the fart noise.
Okay, perfect. I'll do it. The monkey paw is not just magic, it's cursed. You get what you wish for, but the fate you're given is never the one that you wanted. And as the sergeant major is explaining this, he's just kind of holding up the gross little monkey paw and eyeballing it. And then in one quick motion, he just throws it into the fireplace. And Mr. White flips out. He dives in and he grabs it out of the flames before it has a chance to catch on fire. And the sergeant major tells Mr. White that he'd be better off just to let it burn. But Mr. White says, no way. If the sergeant major doesn't want it, let him have it and maybe he can get a couple wishes out of it. And the sergeant major says he'd never give Mr. White the monkey paw. So whatever Mr. White does with it at this point, it's not Sergeant Major Morris's fault. He can't be blamed for Mr. White's fate.
Very convenient.
Yeah, right? Not a great friend. I feel like he could have been a little bit more forceful with that.
Yeah.
But and with that, the sergeant major thanks the family for a nice evening, and he heads out into the storm to go home. As soon as he's gone, Mr. White pulls the monkey paw out of his pocket and he puts it on the table, saying even if this thing was real and really could grant a wish, which it probably isn't, he doesn't even know what he'd wish for. He's got a great wife, he's got a loving son, he's got a fire and food on the table, he has everything that he could want from his fate. His son Herbert, though, has a suggestion. He says, hey, you could wish for like $200 because that's all you guys owe on the house. And if you had $200, you could pay off the rest of your mortgage. That'd be nice, huh? And Mr. White agrees that, yeah, that would be nice. Why not? It's probably not even a real magic monkey paw, but why not give it a shot? And with that, Mr. White holds up the paw and he declares, I wish for $200. And then he screams and he drops the paw on the floor because in his hand he felt the little paw move. And as they watch it, one of the fingers curls down to the palm. But then nothing. No bag of money falls from the ceiling, no magic coins fill Mr. White's pocket. So the family, a little disappointed, heads to bed for the night. The next afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. White are enjoying some tea and relaxing by the fire. They chalked up the whole monkey paw thing to just a trick played on them by an old friend, and they'd pretty much forgotten about it completely. Until there's an ominous knock at the door. Do you guys want to guess who it is?
Santa.
It's Monopoly Man.
You're close. It's a lawyer from the fudge factory that Herbert works in. There's been a terrible fudge accident. Herbert was working the big fudge machine and he stepped a little bit too close and his pant leg got caught and it pulled him right into the gears and it grinded him up. And now he's just a big pile of mush.
Oh,
And that's terrible news. Miss White collapses in shock, and the lawyer goes on and he says that the company accepts no responsibility for this terrible fudge accident. It's really Herbert's big pant legs that got in the way, but they do feel bad for the old couple, so they're giving them something to compensate them for their loss, just like a small.
It's another pair of jeans that fit better.
It's a lifetime supply of fudge.
Yeah.
It's a small cash sum just to help them out with the funeral and the expenses. Want to take a guess on how much money he gives them?
$2.
$200.
200 clams. Can you believe it? It's the exact amount that Mr. White wished for on the monkey paw just the night before. So it worked. Mr. White got his money, but at what terrible cost? "10 days pass, and Herbert's buried in the graveyard. They just kind of pour his little mushy, gooey body into the grave. And the Whites are in mourning. They're just devastated at the loss of their son. But on the 10th night after the accident, Mr. and Mrs. White can't sleep. Mrs. White is quietly sobbing in the corner of the bedroom, and Mr. White's just kind of laying in bed, racked with guilt. And it's very sad. But then, all of a sudden, Miss White cries out. She's had a great idea. She frantically pulls Mr. White out of bed and asks him where the monkey paw is, because there's still 2 more wishes on it, right? They've got 2 more fingers left on that monkey paw. And Mr. White tells her it's downstairs where they left it, but there's no way they should use that thing again. Look what it did the first time. But Miss White says no, they've got to use it for at least 1 more wish. They're going to wish to bring their son back to life.
No, I was going to recommend that.
It's a great idea, right? But Mr. White is shocked.
It's a perfect idea.
He thinks it's a terrible idea. But Mrs. White, in her desperation, is very forceful. She just stares her husband in the eyes and says, "Make the wish." And against his better judgment, Mr. White does it. He goes downstairs and he picks up the monkey paw. With his voice kind of shaking, he says, "I wish my son was alive again." And the second little finger curls up. And the husband and wife just kind of sit there in silence, expectantly, just waiting. But nothing happens. It's just silent. Moments pass, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but nothing.
There's a knock at the door, and it's a lawyer.
You're close. There is a knock at the door. So Mr. White and Mrs. White give up, and they realize that they've just been foolish. They should go to bed. Nothing's going to bring their precious Herbert back to life. And just as they're about to settle into the bed, there's a faint knock, and then a louder knock, and then a very heavy knock that shakes the doors on its hinges. And Miss White jumps out of bed and she shouts, "It's Herbert, he's home." She rushes down the stairs to let him in, but Mr. White has a very different reaction. His mind instantly jumps to the last time he saw his son. See, the factory had asked Mr. White to come down to collect Herbert's squished little body after the accident, and it was really gross. He was basically just kind of a pile of meat goo wearing Herbert's clothes. And with that vision, Mr. White realized that whatever's at the door right now, they do not want to let it in. It's not going to be their Herbert. It's going to be some kind of terrible abomination. So in an instant, he catches Miss White before she can get to the door, and he holds her back, trying to explain to her that whatever's at the door right now, she does not want to let it in. But she won't listen to him. She's in a frenzy, and she wrestles her way out of his grip, and she makes her way to the front door. And luckily, she can only reach the bottom lock. She's a tiny old lady. She can't reach the top lock that keeps the door secure. So she calls out to her husband to come unlock the door and let Herbert in. He just stands there, and his mind is racing, and the door's still banging and violently shaking, and he just slowly descends the staircase. But instead of heading to the front door, he turns and he enters the parlor instead, where the monkey paw is still sitting on the table. And while Miss White is jumping to reach the top of the lock to throw the door open, Mr. White picks up the paw and quietly makes his third wish. And as the last little monkey finger curls up, the banging on the door instantly stops. And everything is suddenly silent. Just then, Miss White is able to finally unlock the door, and she throws it open, but there's nothing. She's too late. Whatever was at their door has disappeared. And in the empty doorway, Mr. White puts his arm around his wife as she cries, and they just stare out into the quiet street. Because the last wish that Mr. White had quietly made in desperation, he wished for the pile of guts and meat goo and broken bones at his doorstep. He wished for it to disappear, to save his wife the shock of seeing what they had turned their son into. And with that, Mr. White's wishes on the monkey paw had killed his son not once, but twice. The Whites had tried to manipulate their destiny, and all they got for it was a twice dead son.
Man.
And a paid-off house.
And a paid-off house, so I guess technically that's a net gain, right?
Yeah.
Man, I thought it was going to go a different way.
Yeah?
I was trying to anticipate what the monkey paw would do, And I thought they were going to bring the son back to life, but he would just be awake in the casket underground, clawing at it.
I mean, which kind of makes more
what-
sense because he was already buried, and it took him like 10 minutes to dig his way out of the graveyard and walk home. That's pretty impressive.
As a goo man, too.
As a goo man. Maybe he just kind of like wiggled his way up. He just wormed his way up through the soil.
They could have had a good worm son. Little meat wad.
Yeah, so let that be a lesson to you, huh? Don't make wishes. Don't dare to dream, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I've always been too big of a dreamer.
Which one do you guys think would make a better monkey paw? Like if I make a wish, which one do you think can manipulate my wish in a worse way?
I'm ready for this. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. I wish for a 10-foot long party sub from Subway.
Okay. Can I ask what kind of toppings you would ideally want for the sub sandwich?
Yeah, mustard, mayonnaise, lettuce, Black Forest ham, nothing else.
Okay. So imagine that you probably ordered this to share with your loved ones at a party. Just
Sure,
going down.
Yeah.
Okay. Or are you gonna eat it yourself? You're gonna eat it yourself.
I'm
Okay,
gonna-
that's fine.
yeah.
Let's just be honest. Okay. All right. So you take your first bite and it's delicious. It's great, right? You can't wait for the second bite. Before the first bite's over, you already have 3 bites in, and you just start shoving this thing down because it's so tasty, and you end up with the whole thing, the whole 10-foot sub in your body, and you can't process it out. You can't poop it out, and so you end up clogging all your pipes, and you die.
Is one side of the 10-foot sub sticking out of my mouth and the other side sticking out of my buns?
No, because nothing can stick out your buns because it's clogged up all your works.
Oh no! I corked it up.
Yeah, sorry.
Dang.
Kev, you're up.
Kev, what do you got?
You hear a ring at your doorbell, your new doorbell, and
Yeah.
you open the door to see that it's the Subway delivery man, Johnny, and he's got your 10-foot
Johnny.
sub. He's also there with Ben because it's 10 feet and he needs a little bit of help getting it there. And
It's a team lift.
it turns out that it's Ben's first day and he has never held a 10-foot sub before and he's not carrying his weight and they drop it on your floor.
Oh God, no!
And now you have a mess to clean up.
This is hell.
You're you're just so desperate for that delicious sub food that you eat it anyway, but you eat it too fast because it's on the floor and you get a stomach ache.
Oh no! Does it cork up my buns?
No, you pass like you would normally pass, but but you have a real inconvenient tummy
It's
pain.
unpleasant.
I'm gonna use my third wish just for the sweet release of death at this point.
That's smart.
Okay. Can you say it in verbatim how you would wish for it?
Okay. Dear Monkey Paw, I wish for one sweet release.
There's another doorbell ring.
Okay.
Who is it?
It's the sweet release truck, and they've got some chocolates for you.
Oh no, but they're big chocolates, and Johnny and Ben, they're carrying him over.
It's Ben again, and he
He
can't
lost his
do
last
it.
job, and so he got a new job.
Oh God.
So maybe you grab the monkey paw, but it's kind of behind. It's a little out of earshot, so he couldn't understand what you said, and I thought you said sweet relish, and so you open the door. And Ben squirts you in the face with sweet relish because he blames you for making him lose his first job.
So I guess we all learned a lesson here. Huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
I learned a lot today.
Not Ben. He still sucks at holding shit.
He'll figure it out. This has been a hell of a campfire, guys.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again next week. If you like our podcast, leave us a rating on iTunes or maybe give us a star or two.
Yeah, and you can send us an email at storyholepodcast@gmail.com if you want to give us a little comment or suggestion or critique. Those are always welcome.
If you feel like you want to see our social media platform on Instagram, you can find us at Storyhole Podcast. Maybe you can follow and, build a bridge, make a friend.
And also, if you go to storyholepodcast.com, it has links to all of our platforms, so you can contact us there too. Great. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Oh, hey, remember how we were calling it Story Ghoul?
Yeah.
I think Gory Hole would have been better.
Oh, Gory Hole.
Gory Hole
Damn
next
it.
week. Tune in next week for Gory Hole.